When you say silly mistakes, it sounds so trivial, but in reality, they are big, big blunders when it comes to the CAT exam. The majority of your negative marks or mistakes are a result of silly mistakes, right? So these are the ones you need to identify very quickly, come up with fixes and solve them. Now let's look at 5 simple ways in which you can fix these type of mistakes. The first is for you to identify the mistake you're making. The second is for you to maintain a list and add these mistakes as and when they occur to that particular list. Now, once you've identified the mistake, the third is for you to find the root cause for it, right? Why are you making this mistake? The fourth is for you to come up with corrective measures, right? Steps you need to take to fix this because you've identified it and found the cause. So now take the remedial measures. The fifth and the most important part over here is for you to monitor it from time to time. See as to whether you're making the same mistake again and again and again, or you've simply fixed it over time, in which case you can just mark it as fixed. Now, silly mistakes can be broadly categorized into 2 categories when it comes to the quant or the DLR sections. One is calculation-based mistakes. The second is the other types of mistakes which are not calculation-based. Now, calculation mistakes can be of several types, right? One such would be speed-induced. 90 plus 14 equals 114 is something which I wrote on my 12th board exam. And even after completing the paper, I came out and made the same mistake while I was rechecking as well, right? So this could be attributed to lack of focus or attention I was paying to that particular thing, or it could be just stress during the test wherein I wanted to quickly write it down, right? I could have slowed down over there. A second type would be where you have bad handwriting. This is again common for me. My X looks like N. My 2A, if I write it, would look like 20, right? A looks like 0. Or simply, when you write 5 very quickly, it probably looks like a 3 or an S, right? So these are the mistakes which you could make with bad handwriting. The root cause for this could be writing too fast or in a cramped manner. Another type would be tables related mistakes, right? 7 into 8 equals 48 you write down. It could be because of insufficient preparation, right? So you didn't really practice the tables enough, you didn't give it enough thought, you were excessively relying on the calculator. That could lead to this as well. As and when you come across a calculation based silly mistake, note it down and write down the root cause for that and look at ways to fix it. Now on to some of the non-calculation based mistakes, right? The first and the most common of the lot is going to be not reading the question properly, right? It's a blanket thing which a lot of you would come across. Now, when it comes to not reading the question properly, you need to be specific. You need to figure out which part of the question you didn't read properly. For some of you, the first part of the question you might not read properly because when you start off, you might not be focused enough on that. For another group of people, the middle part might be the place where they didn't read properly. And the initial part there was focus, the last part was fine. The middle is where you made the mistake because somewhere you lost focus or the timer came into picture for you. For the third type would be where you do not read the last part of the question properly because you read the first and the middle part and then you immediately started writing down the calculations and tried to solve it and didn't pay attention to what was asked in the question, right? So therefore, you need to find out as to where you're making the mistake. I'll give you a couple of examples, right? So one is a question, let's say you have A traveling at 18 kilometers per hour and B is traveling at 10 meters per second, right? The units are different. You got to note that and you got to convert one of them. 18 kilometers per hour, you probably have to write it as 5 meters per second. Now, if you don't do that properly and you're going too fast, you make a mistake. Another type where you didn't read the last part of the question properly. Now, I myself made these mistakes in the exam, right? So one such was wherein I had to find the minimum value of f of x. But then I found the x value at which the quadratic expression attains a minimum, which is minus b by 2a, just noted it down as the answer. It was a type in the answer question. What I had to instead do was take that and plug it back into f of x and find the value over there. Now, what's the root cause for this? It's simply lack of focus. It could be a result of anxiety or stress or the timer, you're going too fast. You need to find out where you're making this mistake, note it down, understand the root cause and look to fix it, right? Be more attentive when it comes to answering questions in that part of the question. Another type is wherein you don't read the units in the question properly. For instance, you need to find out, the time taken by A and it could be 2 hours, but then the question asks you to write it in minutes, in which case you have to answer it as 120. Another could be wherein you solved the answer correctly, you wrote down the answer correctly on your notepad as well, but then when it came to clicking the correct answer option or typing it in the correct answer value, you made a mistake over there, right? This could again be attributed to focus as a result of anxiety or stress. Another big area where people make mistakes is incorrect formula application. For instance, let's say you're required to find the volume of a right pyramid. It's 1/3 of the base area into height. You write it down as half into the base area into height. This is primarily a result of insufficient preparation. You need to go through the formulae properly. You have to go through the concepts behind them properly, right? So make sure your prep part is good. Now, given that one of the major causes for silly mistakes is stress or anxiety, right? So let's look at some of the ways to overcome that. The first is to make sure that your preparation part is good. Spend a lot of time on that. Make sure you prepare for these really well. Go through the formulae, go through the concepts. Make sure that you know how to apply them as well. You'll automatically be confident and your stress level will be down. The second is for you to set a reasonable target, right? So don't go in with an insane target. Set something reasonable. If you're able to get about 6 questions correct and 4 incorrect in test, the target for your next test should be 5 or 6 questions correct, right? So if you go with a lower number of questions as your target, you'll naturally realize that your stress level is down, your focus will be on the question only, and you might even overachieve that, and that's what happens for most of my students. The third is going to be for you to forget the past, right? What has happened in the past is the past, right? Forget it. Now, where does it matter? Let's say you had a bad DLR section, right? You were able to get only one solve only one case, or probably even none of the cases in the mock test. That's going to impact your quant performance. I've seen that with so many of the students, right? When the timer is running for the quant section, the focus is on the previous section. Or let's say you started with the quant section, the first 20 minutes you're able to solve only one question, automatically the stress builds up. Now, this is something which you need to practice over time and try to do. You've got to forget the past and focus on the present. The last over here is easier said than done for a lot of you, is to ignore the timer. Now, this is another thing which happens over time. Now, for you to do this, right, to ignore the timer, prepare well, set reasonable targets, and automatically you'll realize that your focus is going to be on the question or the case and not on the timer. So that's about it. Once again, the 3 major things of the 5 steps outline: identify the mistakes, find the root cause, and take the corrective measures. Now, if you like this video, do hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, hit subscribe. And if you haven't visited our website, do visit mockat.com, register for free, get access to some of the free tests and resources, and boost your prep with one of our study plans.